104.7 The Cave, KKLH, Marshfield, Springfield, a proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Now, it's time for Ned Talk.
There is a big fat 0 on the board up in Kansas City. That 0 signifies the temperature right now. It is 0 degrees in Kansas City. The Chiefs and the Dolphins tonight right here on 104.7 The Cave. You know what's the best part, Ned? You don't have to subscribe. You can just listen to it right here on 104.7 The Cave on the Chiefs Radio Network. I'm Joe Westen, Ned Reynolds, Alex Scott, Josh Roberts. We are in the studio to get you set for the Chiefs pregame show, which comes your way at the top of the hour, 6 o'clock. Ned, how the hell are you?
I hope that 0 that you have there does not represent the number of points that are scored by the Chiefs tonight. And a cold weather game like this, there's not going to be a whole lot of scoring. There very infrequently is, although I think I'm right on this. One of the Chiefs games that they played when it was about 25 or 30, they won 48-17, but that was also back in the 1980s. This is then, or that was then, this is now, and it's cold, folks.
Ticket prices are also dropping in Kansas City, too.
Are they 0 yet?
I don't know that they're 0
I'm
yet.
driving up there if they're 0.
If they're driving, would you really, honestly? No. See, I knew you were lying about that because you're sitting in here wearing a parka.
Not just mine, just stretching the truth a little bit.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. How are you, Alec?
Doing pretty well. I have to wonder when it gets this cold if you polled the players if they would say keep the clock running on incomplete passes. Let's just
keep it rolling.
What if this
folks?
game took 20 minutes? I don't care if there's 15 minutes
But
before
the mercy
quarters.
rule, the cold mercy rule.
Get us out of here.
Yeah. Well, Josh, have you recovered from your week with Nick Saban
I don't
retiring?
want to talk about that. I
We
will say
gotta
this
talk
though.
about
I have
that.
been to Chiefs games when it was in the 50s and froze my butt off because the way that stadium is, the way the wind blows through it. I cannot imagine being in that stadium tonight with the actual temperature at 0.
I don't want to get Ned started about the wussification of America, but I've been to some Royals games and frozen my butt off.
Yeah.
Because the wind does blow, colder up there in the cheap seats that I can afford to go
Yeah,
see
me
baseball
too.
games.
And while I may have talked about it, I am one of those who is victim of wussification because I would no more sit in this one tonight. Come on, that's 0 and below.
I applaud all of you diehards that are in the stadium or tailgating right now to be in the stadium. I applaud you.
Mike, the intern, went to the game.
Oh, yeah. he's-
Everybody
he's-
got silent there. Oh, we loved him.
Yeah, it's like,
Did he
we'll see how
respond
if
at
he's
all?
a
Is he gonna
changed
try to
man when
call
he
in?
returns.
No, he is not called in. He's not. I don't know what's going on with him. I will try to text him while we're on the air. You can text us, by the way, if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment. The number is 417-863-7104. That's 417-863-7104. Did we learn anything at all from last week's game other than the receivers tend to do a better job when Patrick Mahomes is not throwing them the ball?
Well, no, that was a throwaway game. Chiefs win 13-12, something like that. And when you took a look at it, here's a situation in which how many really cared where they were out there. They played, and then
Chris Jones cared. He was the only one.
Kelsey didn't. He didn't even show up.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter remains that they are nobody cares. So there's nothing you could take away from it at all.
Well, I was a little bit shocked because, Alec, I'll get your opinion about this. It did seem, and there were a couple of comments during the course of the week, that the receivers seemed to play a little bit better last week.
It could just be an up week, I guess. I mean, the stress is off. They're not thinking about it as much. It could very much be the pressure cooker of those close games have contributed to the blunders that have occurred throughout the course of the year. But overall, though, you can't draw too much to it. The people that mattered most rested. The ones that played, get some good reps in. You look at some younger guys. Chris Jones makes more than I'll make in a lifetime in one play. So,
Right.
some people had a good week, but they did what they needed to do. They didn't secure the 1 seed to get a bye week naturally, so they facilitated one and made it for their stars. So they're all, for sure, healthy and ready to go tonight.
Josh, you were one that predicted that Mecole Hardman would have a good game, and he did have a good game. Do you think he's a factor in the playoffs?
Boy, I hope so. I mean, I think he has more than some of those other receivers. He has in the past done really well for the Chiefs, so I'm hoping that that's the case. I look at that game last week as a preseason game, so like Ned was saying, like both of you guys were saying, some guys got reps that wouldn't normally. I think the pressure was totally off, defense and offense, so that's why those receivers look like they did better, is because I doubt if the Chargers or the Chargers D-backs really cared if they got beat on some short passes and things. So it was a very relaxed game as far as that goes, I think, for everybody. So, but yeah, I hope Mecole Hardman does some great things in the playoffs because they need him to.
When we were kind of talking about this last week and all the possibilities, and one of the possibilities is that we were going to play Alex Pittsburgh Steelers, I was like, yeah, that's the game I want. That is the team I think that the Chiefs can go in, have a good game against, kind of get themselves in the right spot. I'm not counting it completely as a win because I've seen the Chiefs play too much this season to chalk anything down to just a win. But then after I watched the Buffalo Dolphins game, I felt a lot more comfortable with this matchup today, Ned, because to be honest, that Miami Dolphins team offensively is almost a mirror image of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Not only that, but the Miami defense, which both teams are going to have to come to the fore defensively for this, for any kind of positive thing to happen. Their defense is so badly botched up now with injuries and so forth and so on that they may have trouble. And that's Buffalo put it to them, and it's because the defense wasn't able to meet the challenge that should have been, and it cost Miami a home game. So you have to think that if they're going up into this condition right here and playing under these circumstances and playing against a team that quite honestly is superior to them, that doesn't bode very well at all for Miami.
Alec, do you think you're going to hear the name Pacheco quite a bit tonight?
A lot of runnings, typically what you can expect in the forecast when it gets this cold, and if the wind gusts are strong, that's going to have an impact on the football while it's in the air. It's going to have an impact on the kicking game as well. I think you'll see Pacheco, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane getting a lot of work on both sides. It's going to really come down to who can stop the run better. And it's, as I watched Miami last week, it was a weird game because they got almost everything you could have wanted out of Josh Allen in that first half. He was a turnover machine, the bad side of Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. And Miami still was not able to take that and capitalize and turn that into a win. I think that team is loaded with talent at certain positions. They have some big-name injuries as well. Can't underestimate them because the second you do, you'll blink and they'll put up 28 points in a quarter.
Josh, this game tonight, important game, of course, Kansas City. All the games are important right now. It's playoff football time. We have to remind ourselves a little bit about that. It's playoff football time. Do or die. All the cliches, all the, win or go home. What do you think the Chiefs' game plan will be tonight to take down the Dolphins?
Well, I think they will take advantage of the fact that their defense is beat up, the Dolphins' defense. So I think what you'll see is you'll see a good running game. I think you'll see a lot of running, and that will hopefully set up some decent pass plays. And then I'm hoping that the defense will put tons of pressure on the Dolphins offense and get some sacks, and it's the kind of football that I love. What'd you say? The kind of football I love, you said last time, was very conservative. Is that what you said?
Conservative football? Is that Mike the intern on the phone with us?
Yeah.
Hey, how are you? Are you warm?
I'm okay. How are you?
Well, I'm in a warm studio. I'm more concerned about you. You're in Kansas City. How is it there?
It's I'm actually tailgating with a bunch of really nice people. Got a really good tailgate set up with 2 walled tents up, propane heaters inside. I'm actually pretty warm.
Pretty warm, yeah. What were you eating? What's on the menu tonight?
Right now we have buffalo chicken dip, some cheesy corn salsa. Someone just made chili dogs. I just had one of those. It was incredible.
Nice.
Hey, Mike, how long does it take you to bite into the chili dog before it's frozen?
Well, like I said, we're inside of kind of like we made like a kind of a tent city, and we probably got 6 to 7 propane heaters inside. I don't even have my full gear on.
Wow.
There you go.
Pretty warm inside.
Came
there.
prepared.
We're ready to go. We know what we're doing. This ain't our first rodeo.
Before we went on the air, I told Ned, don't ask Mike about his frozen wiener and what's he do. First thing he does, ask you about your frozen wiener.
That's why we brought the propane tank, so I didn't have to deal with that kind of situation.
It's all thought out. Wait, are you not partying? Are you partying with the people that got there at 5:30 this morning?
Actually, the bus that we're hanging out with, these guys pulled up in line at 8:30 this morning. We got into line probably, I'd say about 1:30, 2 o'clock. They opened gates at 2:30. We got set up pretty quickly. Like I said, we have a two tent walled up propane tanks into a bus, and we're watching the Cleveland-Houston game right now. So yeah, we're having a great time. I have a on-field cape, and I put it on. I'll be good to go. And I'll tell you right now, snow goggles is the last missing piece. Like if you want to stay warm at Arrowhead right now, the last thing that you need, put snow goggles on your face, and you'll be good to go.
Mike, how long before you go in the ballpark itself?
5:15? We'll probably start walking. We'll probably start tearing down in the next 30 minutes, I'd say.
Good. That's super. But tell the folks how you're dressed for this and what you're doing as a guard.
You really want to go through that? All right. Okay. So I've been telling people, if you've ever been duck hunting, that's really the best way to describe it. I obviously been duck hunting, so like that's kind of the base. But really, base layer, and then sweatpants, sweatshirt, t-shirt, Carhartt pants, then coveralls, then a Carhartt jacket over that, and then I've got a rabbit fur hat, face and neck garter, snow goggles, gloves, and then on top of all of that, the on-field cape that the players wear while they're on the field. I have one of those, and so I'll wear that in the stadium, and those things are like windproof, so it's like I'm in my own tent.
Now, you may have mentioned this and I missed it, but what are you doing about your feet?
Yes. We got great winter boots, and then I've got double wool socks pads on in there. And I've been on snow since we got here, and my feet haven't got cold, so I don't think I'm going to put any warmers in there. I was planning on doing that, but I don't think I'll need them.
Now, how about the internal fuel, if you get my drift?
Well, I've got some good friends that had some good victuals, and we're doing just fine in that regard, my friend.
Is Taylor there? Is she partying with you guys?
No.
What about Gypsy?
But I will tell you this. By the size of what I'm seeing in the parking lot, it's preseason rules, my friend, and if it looks a little light down in the 100s, you're all running down to the bottom of the field. I'll tell you that.
As you should.
Fill the bowl.
Oh, all day. Because I'll guarantee you there's a bunch of brokers that have bought rows of seats banking on a lot of people buying tickets to a wild card game, and then all of a sudden the weather turns south, and then guess what? There's empty, unsold seats down in the 100 section, and guess who gets the benefit? That would be me.
Did you have any fear today? I mean, they did postpone the Steelers game tomorrow.
No, because that is not a question of the temperature. That's a question of actually getting to the field. So if your players can't get to the stadium, how the hell are you going to play a game?
True. So driving conditions good, no problems there?
No problems. We were good. We got a little snow between Clinton and 49, but other than that, once we got to 49, roads were good. And like I said, we got in line and just waited it out, and we got it set up. And now this is actually the coldest I've been all day standing out talking to you, because there are a bunch of people inside, so I didn't want to do this inside the tent. But, yeah, this is the coldest I've been all day.
What's the wind like?
It doesn't stop.
Really?
Yeah. No. I've camped in Colorado in December in the mountains before, and I've described that as how the wind never really stops. You never get a break from it, and that's what this feels like. Like mountains, Colorado, December.
So you're going to see a running game tonight, right?
I hope so. I hope they keep it in the hands of Pacheco, and I hope they can keep the ground game going, and I hope that's how we win this game.
Well, you get back inside that tent, get warm, and take care of yourself, okay?
I'm glad I looked at my phone when I did, and I'm glad I was able to touch base with you guys. Have a great show. Stay warm, and pray for me that I am also warm inside.
Hang in there, Mike. Stay in that tent as long as you can.
Keep all your fingers, Mike.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk about the coaching carousel in the NFL and college football. It's Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave.
You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, part of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network. Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, a proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
35 minutes away from the start of the Chiefs pregame show. Right now, in case you're keeping track, it is 0 degrees in Kansas City, minus 10 with the wind chill. Wind is 13 miles an hour out of the northwest. All of that's important. We just talked to Mike, the intern. He said the wind does not stop. And that, I think, in and of itself, Ned, will be a bigger factor in the game than the actual temperature.
Well, it certainly will be a factor. There's no question about that. It will be a detriment to both quarterbacks trying to throw the ball. And especially, well, the Chiefs, they haven't thrown it all that much this year. Some, but the fact is that Mahomes has had some great questions about his receivers, and I think he will in this situation too, because can they hold the ball in the cold weather? So I think we'll see a running game, and I think probably a pretty quick game if that is the case. But not everybody, it won't be totally on the ground, but I think passing will be at a premium tonight.
And you can listen to the game right here on 104.7 The Cave, the Chiefs pregame show, again starting at 6 o'clock, and then kickoff, what 7:25 tonight? Is that kickoff or 7 o'clock?
Well, I think it's more like 7:15 or 7:20 somewhere,
okay.
But I don't know that.
All right. You can listen to it right here, and you don't have to pay for it on 104.7 The Cave. Let's talk about the coaching carousel for a minute. Got underway. Kind of a slow start to the coaching carousel. I mean, there were some people that lost their job immediately following the game, and then there were some people that it was during the week when people stepped down or were let go. What's your take on the whole Belichick-Patriots situation?
I think it was probably agreed upon quite a while ago because it did happen suddenly, and there were really no preliminary notes from the media. They usually have something forthcoming about a major change is going to happen in the coaching. I'm not surprised that Belichick, after all, he's 71 years old, and he's been around there and won the championships, and he may be, in fact, getting a little bit stale. The one that did surprise me was Pete Carroll. I did not expect him to go in Seattle, and he didn't really, because he's just being kicked upstairs into the front office as some kind of what do they call them, special
advisory
consultant.
position. Yeah.
But to make a coaching change there, I wonder if he didn't have something to do with that himself and requested to stay with the organization, but not something on the field. The fact that the Raiders have not named their man yet, and I think they're going to stay with they should anyway, with their defensive coach. He's popular with the players. I think the Chargers are probably waiting on maybe Mr. Belichick to say yes or no, because I think he would fit in very well out in Los Angeles. And a number of others, the Washington situation, no. Atlanta Falcons situation, no. Mike Vrabel at Tennessee, surprised to see him go. I thought he might be the Patriots coach, but that won't happen. It's a situation in which you have to understand what the contract demands are and where you fall into the scheme of things with your budget, and that has an awful lot to do with it.
Do you think you see Vrabel getting a job this year, coming back?
It's with somebody. Heavens, it may not be a head coaching job, but Vrabel's a very adept and astute individual. He was, 6 years with the Tennessee Titans? Does that sound right? Something like that. And had very good teams. I think 2 years ago he was NFL Coach of the Year.
The big name in the course, this whole coaching carousel is Jim Harbaugh. Will he take a job in the NFL? Is he going to stay with Michigan? I think it's pretty much, according to everything that we see, that he's going to leave and go to the NFL. Do you think that's true? Where do you think he's going to land?
Well, in my opinion, I think he is probably mulling over an offer in his. After all, he's been with the 49ers, with the Chargers when they were in San Diego. He has quite a bit of coaching in the NFL in his background, and his brother's a coach there. But indeed, Harbaugh has a pretty cushy job. Now, by cushy, I'm talking about the monetary rewards he gets at Michigan and the fact that he's the national champion. That makes a very big difference. But he also has demons flying over his head about possible infractions of the NCAA and so forth and so on. So that might all figure into the mix.
What do you think, Alec?
Well, I think you add his name into what might be the most prolific coaching free agent pool we've seen in a very long time between the likes of Vrabel and Belichick and Jim Harbaugh. And up to this point, if you count the teams that made in-season firings, there were 8 jobs open. That's a fourth of the league that fired their coach this year. And I don't think you can count on everyone in the playoffs keeping their job if they exit early. I still think if Pittsburgh were to upset Buffalo, I think Sean McDermott is out. I think if Dallas were to lose in the first game, Mike McCarthy might be out. There's been rumbles of even Bill Belichick and Jerry Jones having a good relationship, and maybe.
How about Sirianni in Philadelphia?
I think he buys himself at least one more year on good faith with how good last year went and how it was just bad down the stretch because they were the best team in the league for the first 11 weeks of this season. So Harbaugh, I wish we knew more about what's coming from the NCAA because if he stays in Michigan, that tells me he's confident there's no sanctions. If he runs, that tells me Michigan has a postseason ban sometime in the next 5 years.
Joe Flacco just threw a pick 6. It is 30-14
You love to
before
see
the PAT. Right now, Houston over Cleveland. So interesting game going on right now as the NFL playoffs roll on this weekend. What about you, Josh Roberts? I know. Were you surprised Saban stepped down?
I was. I think everybody that's an Alabama fan was surprised. I don't, except maybe the people in the organization itself. But I didn't expect it. I didn't see it coming, and I'm sad that he is retiring. I mean, we've enjoyed some great years with him. He was the coach for 17 years and won 6 national championships. So you can't really ask for more than that. And what really surprised me about him in his entire coaching career, he has never had a losing season. He had 2 6-6 seasons at Michigan State, but every other season that he's coached, he's had a winning season.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing.
It's not only amazing, I think it's testimony to what a great leader he is. And he's not a real warm person.
No, he's not.
The media.
Yeah.
The media just didn't like him at all until he resigned, and then they anointed him as the greatest coach of the century and all that sort of thing. But no, he had. I think he had this in mind. There was a picture on one of the news outlets this morning that I saw of his new home. Now the new home is about a year old now. $17 million.
Woo.
And it's on.
Wow.
It's in Jupiter, Florida.
Oh.
And not Jupiter, the planet. No, it's Jupiter.
He did make a lot of money at Alabama.
He could probably afford it. Yeah, I mean, his coaching record speaks for itself, and any Alabama fan is going to be sad because it took a lot of years to get a coach that was able to accomplish what he's accomplished. Gene Stallings won 1 national championship in his 10 years of coaching for Alabama. And before that, it was all Bear Bryant. So, I am cautiously optimistic about the future. I would not have picked the person that they picked to be the new head coach, but he's, like you guys have told me, he's got a great coaching record. So that's probably why they were looking at him. He's a younger guy, and he took a Washington team to the national championship that, most people probably wouldn't have picked to even be in the Final Four at the beginning of the season. So he's a good coach. I would have assumed, I've said this for years, I always assumed that Dabo Swinney would be the next Alabama head coach because he went to Alabama and had a good relationship with Saban and all that. But,
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I was thinking about this on the way over here today, and there's a lot of things to not like about Nick Saban, especially if you're not an Alabama fan. One is he's a whiner. Number 2 is he's not a friendly person, and he's got this kind of enormous ego that goes with him where certain things have to be done his way or nobody else's way, and he tried that in the NFL, and it didn't work out so well. But the one thing that I will say about him is that he knew that Alabama, in and of itself, was the calling card. He didn't have to cheat. He didn't have to go around and cut the corners and do things that a lot of these coaches do to have to get their program noticed or to get them into contention for something. He knew that Alabama was the end game. That's the place that people wanted to be. And if he built a good program there, he didn't have to do any of that stuff. People wanted to come play for him.
And to that end, Joe, I don't think the Alabama team under Saban ever had any
No,
infractions, no
not at all.
investigations, no nothing from him at all.
Not at all. And we were just talking about Jim Harbaugh, and it's been nothing but controversy since he's got there.
Or even a name that's always going to be tied to Nick Saban because their runs happened kind of concurrently is going to be Bill Belichick, because Alabama was the New England of college football, vice versa. And you look at that tenure in New England, constant, Spygate, Deflategate, they're stealing our signs, all that. And then, Nick Saban and the programmer at Alabama, you just got to tip your cap to it, because I got tired of watching it. It's Alabama again. It's Alabama again. But, that was just a force. And with the way the transfer portal's set up now in college football, I'll be very curious to see how many kids enter it out of Bama because they came to play for Saban.
Yeah, well, and that's one thing. He had 13 number one recruiting classes as a coach in 17 years. That's amazing. And I'll be curious to see what happens now, too, because with the transfer portal and the kids that are already there who thought they were going to get to play for Nick Saban for 2, 3, or 4 years, we'll see if a bunch of them don't jump ship. And we'll see. I mean, Alabama still has the pedigree, and so a lot of players will want to play for Alabama just because it's Alabama. But I think it will diminish a bit. There's no way it can't. I mean, because what he did from day one of being there was turn them into the powerhouse that they are.
Well, and you got a coach that is bringing kind of the same mentality to the program, not a sniff of controversy with the Washington team or him, either one. So, there you go. We'll see how all this plays out. It's really interesting. It's Ned Talk, your local live sports talk show, semi-live. We seem to be live. We'll be back in a moment.
You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, part of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network. Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, a proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
We're about 18 minutes away from the start of the Chiefs pregame show up in sunny, warm Kansas City, Missouri. Joe Westen, Ned Reynolds, Alex Scott, Josh Roberts. I think the coaches for Cleveland went over and whispered to Joe Flacco, hey, we're wearing the white jerseys tonight.
Right, yeah.
We've never worn blue jerseys because he's thrown more touchdown passes to the other team than he's thrown to his own team.
It's tied now. It's 2-2.
38-14 Houston and Cleveland right now. All right. It is the NFL playoffs. It is a lot going on. The Chiefs playing the Dolphins. We have that game tonight. What's your biggest other draw this weekend, Ned?
Well, there are some very good matchups, of course, but I'm waiting to see who the Baltimore Ravens end up playing in their game, because I really like the Baltimore club. They're very strong. Of course, I have a partiality toward Philadelphia. They play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on a Monday night. There is a Monday night playoff this year.
And a Monday afternoon
And
now.
a Monday afternoon. This is a doubleheader on Monday.
Yep.
So the formula, incidentally, is 2 games today, 2 tomorrow, and 2 on Monday is the way it's going to have to work. But over and above that, you really can't make a judgment, Joe, because the top seeds, the 49ers and the Ravens, they're both sitting this one out. We'll see how that manifests itself next week when they do go back into action.
Do you see that as a Super Bowl matchup this year?
May have been. They've already played once. Baltimore winning. Incidentally, guys, did you see by any chance any of you the TV ratings for Christmas Day in football? The NFL and NBA went head-to-head. This was mathematically shown the other day. The lowest-rated NFL game, the lowest-rated, was the Baltimore game against the 49ers because it was a night game. 27.5 million people watched it. That's the lowest-rated NFL game. The highest-rated NBA game was the Celtics and the Lakers, 5 million.
Oof. Well, I'm going to go out on a limb here and make the prediction that the lowest-rated NFL playoff game will be tonight. I have heard a lot of people quite unhappy with this experiment that is going on with Peacock. Ned, your thoughts?
Well, it's being done, and I'm glad you phrased it as that because that's what it is. Everybody knows across the country the Chiefs are the most watched NFL team. They have to be. They've got all the excitement. They've got Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in the NFL. Everybody wants to see their game. The NFL, like all the other major league sports, is moving toward, now they haven't all established it yet, but moving toward streaming. This is now the Peacock Network streamed another game earlier back in December, Buffalo, and I've forgotten who they played, but it did about 7 million. Well, that's what the network, that's what NBC, which owns Peacock, is doing here. They're seeing what their rating will be. I don't think they counted on this one being played in 0 conditions in terms of the weather, and I don't think they counted on the people raising hell the way they have about this. I think the ratings will probably be, relatively speaking, decent at what they are because somebody will put a positive spin on this thing. But that's the reason it's being done. It's a direction that the NFL and Major League Baseball and all the others are taking toward streaming. This is how it works. Now, when I say that, it's not going to happen right away. It'll be 4 or 5 years from now, but that's the way they're going.
Go ahead, Alex.
I think what's going to be interesting tonight, it's less about the ratings. It's more about a month from now, how many people forget to cancel their $6.99 monthly subscription, and NBC doubles down on you. They thought they were trying just to get you for 1 month, then you accidentally pay for 2, and it continues because we've all done it. We've all forgotten to cancel subscription when you meant to. So that's or I think the formula is for them is get some people in the door. They don't care about keeping you. They care about you paying once and maybe accidentally twice, and that's a nice bump for Peacock.
Well, they're doing a very good special offer to get people in for a year with it. I have the free version of Peacock, and it's always kind of irritated me because they'll give you one show, and then you're like, oh, I like this. I think I'll watch it again. And then they're like, no, you got to subscribe to see the rest of these. That makes me really unhappy. It's my least favorite of all the streaming services that I have. I hardly ever use it, and I've kept it. I don't pay for it. Like I said, I have the free version of it, and I don't think I have access to the game. I'm not 100% sure about that. Alex shaking his head no.
They've actually, I believe, they've gone away from, there's no, like Netflix or Hulu's, those free trials that you can do. Peacock just gives you a little bit of everything at no cost, but then says if you want to really get behind the curtain, you owe us. And the Chiefs game is not on that free version. So if you want to watch it tonight, it's going to be $6.99, or if you can find a special somewhere, maybe you can save a little money.
Josh, you watch the games frequently with a friend of yours, and you guys were just not going to watch it tonight until you found a friend that had Peacock.
Yeah, my friend's brother actually has Peacock already, or we wouldn't be watching the game. It's infuriating to me. I think it's ridiculous because the amount of money that we're talking about is unfathomable for you and I, but yet they're still grabbing it more because this is a money grab for the Peacock streaming service that is being perpetuated by the NFL saying, hey, if you pay us to put our game exclusively on your network, I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
Ned, any more you want to add to this?
It's not a grab, it's a gouge.
Gouge, exactly. You're right.
A racket, one might say.
They're gouging the consumer with this. I mean, I've talked to quite a few people this week about it. I have people that came up to me that were, I would call them casual football fans, and they were upset about this. Do you think the PR in and of itself is bad, and that maybe they'll just go, this was a bad idea?
We'll find out. We'll find out what the numbers are. If there's too much of a rejection from the American public, I think they'll rethink what their plans are. But if it turns out that a relatively acceptable number of people do watch it across the country, and keep in mind now that across the country does not involve Kansas City and Miami. They're seeing it on over-the-air TV on their NBC stations, but they're the only ones. Everybody else has to pay for it. So NBC thinks they'll probably get whatever. 7, 8, 9 million. I don't know. I don't know what their figure would be.
Hope they get.
How are you watching the game tonight?
I'm not.
Really?
No. I've got another event that I'm going to, and the TV will not be. If it were, Mr. Rachmaninoff would absolutely turn over upstairs in the piano heaven that he is in right now.
I will tell you this, Mr. Reynolds has a very busy schedule. He's always got something going on, and he always has these other events that he's going to. It's always quite secretive. He kind of makes
he's
it
a
seem.
secret agent. We've
Yeah,
figured that
I
part
think
out.
so. I think he leads a double life. He goes out and he's like a ninja somewhere, and he just drops down and kills people, and then goes back and
Flutters down.
and watches
That
and
doesn't
watches
happen,
and watches TV. So yeah, I talked to several people who said they just weren't going to watch the game. They were just done with it. And I talked to a lot of people this morning, calling while I was doing the Vinyl Club show, and they said, "Are you guys having the game tonight?" They were trying to get us fixed. They weren't typical 104.7 The Cave listeners, and they were trying to get a fix on us. Okay, you're at 104.7, and one lady asked me, "The game's going to be live, right?" Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mitch Holtis, Dana Hughes, right here on 104.7 The Cave. We're just about to turn it over to those guys as far as the pregame show goes, but we'll be back in just a minute with our picks for tonight's game. It's Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave.
You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, part of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network. Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, a proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
It is -2, partly cloudy in Kansas City right now with the wind chill. It feels like -20. Oh my gosh. I just, my butt
shivering
puckered
right
on
now.
that one.
Yeah.
It really did, man. And that is cold. I do not like cold weather. I do not like it at all. And I know the guy sitting next to me hates it, Mr. Reynolds, right?
What is a stronger word, a stronger adjective than hate? How about utter
Loathe,
despise and
abhor,
loathe?
Yeah,
Detest. Get the
exactly.
thesauruses out.
Well, it tells you what a hardcore football fan, Chiefs fan, Mike the intern is
Yeah.
there at that game tonight. Dressed very warm, though. Covered himself in all
Layers.
sorts of stuff.
All
Maybe
about layers.
Vaseline to keep himself warm.
I'm told that doesn't do any good.
Well, maybe they lied
Told
to
or from experience?
No, told. I don't know from experience.
you. All right, it's that time of the show where we prove how stupid we are by making our picks for tonight's game. I think all of us have decided that what is the over-under number? 34?
I think it was 43.
43. I think
I think 43.5, I think is
safely
where
going
it
to go
was.
under right now on that one. Ned, all right, you start first. What's
I
your
would-
prediction?
Great emphasis on running tonight from both teams, and the Chiefs have the better offensive running attack than Miami does. And Miami will probably try to throw the ball a little bit. I don't think it's going to be very effective. I think Mahomes will be very, frugal with his passing attacks. Number one, because he doesn't have a lot of confidence in his receivers, and number two, except for Kelsey, throwing the ball that hard in cold weather is like a brick, throwing it at somebody and trying to catch a brick. I think you'll look for a quick game, and I think for Kansas City, I'm going to pick them to win 17-6 over Miami. Thanks to
Well, that's an easy win there. Okay. What do you think, Alec?
I think this cold weather behooves Kansas City with the superior defense. I think that's going to be the difference tonight. As long as that defense can keep Miami's run game in check. Miami's offense is all about timing throws. They want to get Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle into these windows and hit them in space at exact, precise moments. And if that only really gets set up off play action and a threat of a run, and I think Kansas City does enough of that tonight. So I'm also going to go Kansas City. I'm going to go 20-13.
44-14 right now, Houston over Cleveland.
You love to see
Josh, your pick.
I will echo these sentiments of our other two colleagues. It's going to be a low-scoring game. There's going to be a lot of running. You're going to see a lot of good defense. The ball is going to be frozen on the field, so it's going to be hard to hold on to. It's going to be hard to throw. It's going to be hard to catch. So I think you're going to see some fumbles. You're going to see some turnovers that you wouldn't necessarily in a warm game. I'm going to say the final score is 14-10 Chiefs.
One of the things that we really haven't touched on that's going to have a huge impact in this game tonight, we've talked about the wind, we talked about the cold weather, we talked about how hard the ball is. And that all plays. Who's the number one offensive player for the Kansas City Chiefs the last 2 weeks?
Their kicker.
Harrison Butker.
Yeah, Butker.
And he is kicking a very hard football. That ball, it feels like you're kicking a rock when you're at this kind of temperature. I wonder if he had. Furthermore, this is a scientific fact. The cold air is very heavy. Does the ball go as far?
Right. It does not. And then the wind on top of that.
Game's gonna
kicking is gonna stink in this game.
Yeah, well, but I think that's where the game's going to come down to. The Chiefs have been really, really bad at red zone offense in the past 3-4 weeks. They've just looked terrible in red zone offense. They've relied on Butker to win games for them. I don't know about Miami's kicker. I don't know whether he's how good he is or how good he isn't.
Reves?
I don't know who it is.
Jan Stenerud.
I want to say it's Jason. Oh,
used to be
still
Uwe
Jason
von
Sanders.
Schaumburg. That was about 100 years
They've
ago.
got a solid guy. They're just a few weeks removed from him kicking 6 in a game against Dallas beating them. So but when this weather, you just never know. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a lot more fourth down attempts because teams don't want to risk kicking the ball from distance because they know it's very unlikely it goes in.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we're going to see a game that's very similar to last week's game.
Mm-hmm.
And so my prediction is that the Chiefs win this game 12-9. That it's totally going to be a field goal game. That neither team's going to be able to punch the ball in. I think the weather really neutralizes Tyreek Hill. Yeah. I mean, I think that their number one weapon offensively is Tyreek Hill. And I think you put L'Jarius Sneed on him, put the weather into this, and you have got a game where he's shut down. Ned.
Mr. Hill was saying, and quoted as saying yesterday, that it's a mindset. If you don't even think about it, it's not going to affect you. And to that end, he is going out with his sleeves or the arms exposed.
Oh, my gosh.
Thank you, Tyreek.
Yes, thank you very much. All right, we don't have any clue when we're going to be on next week, so make sure you listen to Mike the Intern and Ned Reynolds each weekday morning right here on 104.7 The Cave. They'll give you the latest news and what's happening with the Kansas City Chiefs, tell you when we're going to be on the air, who they're playing, what's happening. You'll find out about all of it with Mike the Intern and the Keys to the Kingdom. We'll see you. Enjoy the game.